You know that feeling, right? You're just incredible at something. Maybe it's baking these amazing pies, or you're like a wizard with cars, or you build beautiful furniture.
Mm.
You're doing the work, maybe for someone else, and you get this thought, okay, I'm really good at this. I'm done with bosses. I'm going to start my own thing doing exactly this.
Ah, yes. That moment, the source material we're diving into today, it really captures that initial excitement, that hope feels electric almost.
Exactly. You picture the freedom, you know, the
Mhm.
control, just the satisfaction of building your own
The
thing.
dream.
Yeah, escaping the grind. But then, well, reality kind of slaps you in the face.
Uh-huh.
It turns out knowing how to do the work, bake the
Mm.
pie, fix the car, build the chair, that's just worlds away from knowing how to run a business that does that work.
Completely different.
Suddenly, you're not just baking, you're sourcing ingredients, managing stock, marketing, selling, dealing with like permits, taxes, maybe hiring.
Oh, yeah. All of it.
And you're doing it 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's relentless.
And you quickly realize you're working for a new boss, one who's way more demanding, less forgiving, and definitely crazier than any boss you had before.
And who's that boss?
It's you.
Oof. Yeah. That feeling, that really common path, that kind of startling gap between the dream and the small business reality, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
We're going to unpack some really, really insightful stuff from a book that's basically changed the game for how thousands of people think about building a small business.
So welcome to the deep dive. The source material for this whole exploration, it actually comes from you, our listener. You shared a bunch of key excerpts from a book that's really become a modern classic.
That's right. It's the E-Myth Revisited. And it gets right to the heart of this entrepreneurial struggle, or maybe more accurately, the small business reality.
And this isn't just some armchair theory, is it? The source makes it clear these ideas come from many thousands of hours of work at a place called E-Myth Worldwide.
Yeah, over 24 years, and based on direct experience with thousands, literally thousands of small business owners, people just like the ones you were describing.
That's a massive amount of real-world experience baked into this.
It really is. And the core belief driving the whole book, drawn from all that experience, well, it's pretty provocative, maybe even a bit harsh.
Lay it on us.
It suggests that fundamentally, small businesses in the United States simply do not work. The people who own them do.
Whoa. Okay, hang on. Let that sink in. The business itself isn't working. It's the owner, just the person, who's the engine, the glue, holding it all together with sheer willpower.
That's precisely the argument. And if that resonates, if your business feels totally dependent on you, your energy, your hours,
Yeah.
then this book is talking directly to you.
Right. The source says the target audience is crystal clear. If you own a small business, or if you want to own a small business, this book was written for you. Anyone caught in that trap or, hoping to avoid it. So, okay, what's the promise then? What does the book actually aim to do for these owners who are just drowning in work? The source says it's not just a how-to list.
No, it's deeper than that. It's about producing results, not simply how to do it.
What does that mean exactly? Producing results versus how-to.
Well, the real change, the book argues, only happens when an idea becomes firmly integrated into the way you think and operate your business. It's not about learning a new trick. It's about a fundamental shift, a shift in your whole perspective, your mindset, and ultimately what you do.
And maybe the most fundamental idea, the one that's maybe hardest to swallow, is this one. Your business is nothing more than a distinct reflection of who you are.
Yeah, the source is pretty blunt about it. If your thinking is sloppy, your business. Sloppy. Disorganized you. Disorganized business. Greedy. Well, your employees might start reflecting that too. Limited info. Limited business potential.
It's like looking in a mirror. Ouch.
It is a mirror. And the point is, if you want that reflection to change, if you want the business to change, you have to change first. The business isn't going to magically transform on its own.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
And maybe a little uncomfortable, like you said.
definitely.
Okay, so given that tough premise, why should you, listening right now, invest your time in this deep dive, or maybe even read the book? What's the payoff?
Well, the source material highlights that it offers a very practical step-by-step method. They call it the turnkey devolution lessons. And the claim is that this method can be applied by any small business owner to create predictable results and vitality.
Predictable results. That sounds like the opposite of the chaos we were just talking about.
Exactly. And it's presented not just as theory, but as a proven way to the top, something that's actually been implemented by thousands of small businesses. It's described as a programmed approach to learning what needs to be learned.
A program. Like a system for learning how to build the business system.
Kind of, yeah. It leads to something called the E-Myth Mastery Program, and the source makes this really bold claim. It can change your life.
Change your life. That's huge.
It is a big promise. But think about it. If the problem is that your business is literally crushing the life out of you, then finding a way to build a business that actually works for you instead of the other way around, well, that would be a life changer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission here today in this deep dive is really to unpack these core ideas from the excerpts you shared with us.
Right. We'll explore the big myths holding people back, like that E-myth itself. We'll identify the really common, often painful problems that pop up.
And then we'll discover this radically different systematic approach the book proposes for building a business that actually thrives, that works on its own, and crucially serves your life instead of just consuming it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into the heart of it. The first big concept the book tackles is the one right there in the title, the E-myth.
Yeah, right off the bat, the source defines this as the myth of the entrepreneur. It's this romantic, almost heroic idea that small businesses are started by entrepreneurs when, in fact, most are not.
That's that image we started with, isn't it? The visionary, the risk-taker, battling the odds, hair blowing in the wind. The source says the legend reeks of nobility. Kind of dramatic.
It is. And look, the source acknowledges those types of entrepreneurs do exist. They're real. But based on their massive experience, they're saying those people are actually pretty rare. They're the exception, not the rule for who starts most small businesses.
Okay, so if that's true, if most small businesses aren't started by these, like, grand visionaries,
Yeah.
then who is starting them? And, maybe more importantly, why?
This leads right into a key concept in the book, the entrepreneurial seizure.
A seizure. Sounds intense.
It is, in a way. The source describes it as this sudden moment, often totally spontaneous. It happens when someone who's a really skilled technician, someone who knows how to do the actual technical work, like our pie baker, Sarah decides, I'm going into business for myself.
Because they're good at the technical work.
Exactly. That's the trigger. Sarah's amazing at baking pies, loves it. She's fantastic at it. She thinks, you know what? Sick of my boss, I can bake pies better than anyone. If I can get paid to do this for someone else, I can definitely get paid to do it for myself.
I see the trap forming already.
Right there. They make what the source calls the most fatal assumption any intending business owner can make.
Which is?
They mistake knowing how to do the technical work for knowing how to run a business that does the technical work.
Ooh, yeah. That distinction hits hard, doesn't it?
Right.
It's not about being a great baker. It's about running a great bakery. Totally different ballgame.
Totally. And the source doesn't pull any punches about the consequences of this misunderstanding. It says this single assumption has cost us dearly in lost resources, lost opportunities, and wasted lives.
Wow. Wasted lives. That's heavy.
Think about it, though. All these talented technicians, brilliant at their craft, who burned out, lost everything because they never made that fundamental shift in understanding. They never learned to run the bakery.
Because that initial excitement, that entrepreneurial seizure where they finally felt free, it doesn't last, does it?
Not usually. The dream of being your own boss fades fast when you realize you just created the hardest job imaginable for yourself. The job of doing absolutely everything. Like Sarah in the story, her seizure was about baking, but the reality of running the shop just overwhelmed that initial dream.
Yeah. And this points to something really crucial about the person starting the business. The source brings up this fascinating idea that we're not just one single person inside.
Right. It uses that great analogy, the fat guy and the skinny guy when you're trying to diet.
I know that battle.
We all do. One part of you wants the salad and the workout the skinny guy, but another part is screaming for that pint of ice cream the fat guy. We feel this internal tug of war because we think of ourselves as just I, but the source argues it isn't I, it's we. We're actually like a committee inside, a whole set of different personalities.
A committee?
Yeah.
How does that apply to starting a business?
Well, the source says there are 3 core personalities or roles present in everyone who goes into business, just in different proportions: the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician.
Okay, let's meet the internal team. First up, the entrepreneur.
This is the visionary, the dreamer. Lives in the future, always seeing possibilities, new angles, new strategies. They're often disruptive to the status quo because they're constantly thinking bigger picture. The source says they're always throwing a monkey wrench into the daily routine with a new idea, wakes up with a vision.
Got it. the big picture person. Then there's the manager.
The manager is the pragmatist, the planner, the organizer. They live more in the past, looking at what worked, what didn't. They crave order, systems, predictability, control. They want to build the structure.
Okay.
The source notes the manager can become a problem for the technician because they want to standardize everything. And when the entrepreneur comes up with some wild new vision, the manager's gut reaction is, oh no, how are we going to manage that?
Right. Preserve the order. And finally, the technician.
Ah, the technician. This is the doer. Lives totally in the present, focused on the task right in front of them. They love doing the work itself. They tend to distrust thinking unless it's directly about how to do the work better. Just tell me how to do it.
So they see ideas as needing to be turned into a method right now.
Exactly. Reduce it to methodology. And they often feel like the other two just get in their way. The entrepreneur throws monkey wrenches. The manager is a meddler trying to control things. The source calls the technician the backbone, the one who actually gets stuff done, but also notes they often see strategic thinking as, well, unproductive. While the others dream and plan, the technician ruminates, just thinks about the work.
Okay, so we've got this internal trio. The dreamer, the organizer, the doer. And the big problem, according to the source, is that most people starting small businesses are way out of balance.
That's the crux of it. The source estimates that the typical owner, the one who had that entrepreneurial seizure, is maybe only 10% entrepreneur, 20% manager, and 70% technician.
70% technician. Wow. So heavily weighted towards just wanting to do the work.
Overwhelmingly so. With very little internal capacity or maybe inclination for the dreaming and organizing parts.
And this imbalance, it just creates chaos, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Internally and in the business.
Absolute chaos. If these three parts of you are constantly at odds, the technician just wants to bake pies, the manager wants a detailed checklist for how to bake every single pie, and the entrepreneur wants to scrap pies and invent a revolutionary new pastry, you're stuck. Perpetual conflict, confusion.
It's like having three different bosses yelling conflicting orders inside your own head.
Exactly. And you see this playing out in Sarah's story. Her natural state was technician focus on the craft of baking. The book frames her whole challenge as needing to do the entrepreneurial work. That meant stepping back from the pies, challenging her own assumptions, imagining something different. She had to fight that technician instinct just to even consider creating a business that wasn't 100% reliant on her being there, hands in the dough.
Understanding that internal conflict seems key because it explains so much about why businesses stall or fail, especially when they try to grow. Which brings us to the 3 phases of business growth.
Right, and the source says understanding these phases is critical to discovering why most small businesses don't thrive.
Okay, phase 1.
Infancy. This is the beginning. The honeymoon period? Maybe. The owner is finally free from the old boss, doing your own thing. Remember that electric air, the high hopes? That's infancy.
But the owner's doing everything.
Everything. The source calls them a master juggler, making the product, buying supplies, selling, shipping, finances, cleaning, you name it, working insane hours, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. The business just consumes them.
And critically, in this phase, the owner is the business, right?
Totally intertwined. The source says it bluntly. If you removed the owner from an infancy business, there would be no business left. It would disappear. Think about those classic shop names. Joe's Place, Tommy's Joint, Mary's Fine Foods. The owner is the brand, the operation, everything.
So how does infancy end? It can't go on forever like that.
It ends when the owner hits a wall. They finally realize this cannot continue the way it has been. It will have to change. Usually it's burnout, or they physically can't handle more work, or the business just can't grow any further with only them doing everything.
And this moment, it's make or break.
Hugely dangerous. The source points out this is actually when most business failures occur. The technician owner, completely overwhelmed by anything beyond just doing the work, unable to shift gears or delegate, often just throws in the towel, locks the doors, walks away.
But some survive.
The ones who survive infancy, the source says, move into phase 2, adolescence.
Okay. Adolescence, what happens here?
Adolescence kicks in when the business has grown just enough, maybe through sheer brute force from the owner, that they absolutely cannot do everything anymore. They have to get help. They hire someone.
Finally. Relief,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's the initial feeling. The source uses the example of hiring Harry to do some technical work, maybe baking pies, maybe running the register. The owner thinks, yes, a major ball is about to be caught and weighed by somebody else.
But I sense a but coming.
big but. Remember that internal imbalance. The 70% technician owner hasn't magically changed. They hire Harry, but they still want everything done their way, exactly how they used to do it.
So micromanaging, interference.
Constantly, changing their mind about the process. Harry, the source notes, probably expects some interference. Bosses do that. But the real problem isn't Harry. It's the owner's inability to let go, to manage systems instead of managing tasks. They haven't built the manager muscle.
And as the business tries to grow beyond what the owner can personally control,
It hits the owner's comfort zone, that personal boundary of how much chaos or complexity they can handle, and the business goes into a tailspin, the source says. Chaos erupts because there are no systems, no structure to support growth beyond the owner's direct reach.
and this adolescent chaos leads to what? What happens to businesses stuck here?
The source mentions a few outcomes. Some try to just power through recklessly, going for broke. Others just barely survive, hanging on for dear life. That's where Sarah Felge was, just overwhelmed. But the most common reaction for the technician-dominated owner, the one the source calls consistent and predictable, it's getting small again.
Getting small.
Yeah.
Shrinking. That sounds backwards. Why would
Yeah.
you do that after working so hard to grow?
It's not usually a conscious strategy. It's a retreat. It's driven by overwhelm. The feeling is, if you can't control the chaos, get rid of it. So unconsciously often, the owner starts shedding employees, turning away work, pulling back.
Until the business is small enough again that they can control it all themselves just by doing the work.
Exactly. Back into their technician comfort zone. And the source is clear. This isn't usually because the market demands a smaller business. It's because the owner hits their own personal limitations. Their lack of skill, knowledge, experience, or crucially, their lack of passion for growing a healthy, functionally dynamic, extraordinary business.
So the business shrinks back to fit the owner's limitations. Back to infancy, basically.
Pretty much. The potential of the business gets capped by the owner's inability or unwillingness to grow themselves beyond the technician role.
Which brings us, hopefully, to the third phase, maturity.
Yes, maturity. This is the goal state. This is where the business is intentionally built to work independently of the owner. It's guided by a clear vision, a vision against which the present is shaped.
So it's designed, not just happening by accident.
Exactly. The source contrasts businesses left up to chance, like those stuck in infancy or adolescence, with a mature company that's deliberately architected.
And getting there requires the owner to change their job entirely, doesn't it?
Fundamentally, their job is no longer in the business doing the tasks. It's working on the business, building it, shaping it, leading it. Their primary job becomes to prepare yourself and your business for growth.
Which means, what kind of work?
Strategic work. Asking the big questions. Where do I wish to be? When do I wish to be there? How much capital will that require? How many people? What technology? How large a space? It's about proactive planning, contingency planning, not just reacting to daily fires.
Building something that can actually stand on its own 2 feet.
Precisely. An entity that functions, not just a reflection of your own frantic juggling.
And this ties right back to that core message the source gave Sarah, and really gives to everyone listening.
The tough love message. If you want to work in a business, get a job in somebody else's business. But don't go to work in your own.
Still sounds harsh. But I think I get the why now. While you're completely buried in doing it, baking, answering phones, fixing things, like crucial strategic work, the entrepreneurial work,
The work that will actually lead your business forward.
it just doesn't happen. There's no time, no energy, no headspace for it.
Right. And think about Sarah's initial fear, which is so typical of the technician owner. But I can't imagine my business without me doing the work. If it weren't for me, my customers would go someplace else. The business is her identity.
And the book's comeback to that is pretty strong.
Very strong. If your business depends on you, you don't earn a business, you have a job. And then the kicker, it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic.
Ha, the lunatic boss again.
That unbalanced internal committee we talked about, the technician trying to do everything, the overwhelmed manager, the stifled entrepreneur, it makes for an impossible work environment created by you for you.
So the whole point of starting the business, the book argues, shouldn't be to create a job for yourself.
No, it should be to create freedom. The purpose of going into business is to get free of a job so you can find the time to get on with your life. The business should serve your life, not consume it.
Okay, powerful diagnosis of the problem. So if the goal is maturity, a business that works without you, that frees you up, how on earth do you actually build that?
This is where the book introduces its core solution. It calls it the turnkey revolution. building a business that works. And it's all based on the idea of the franchise prototype.
Franchise prototype. Okay, unpack that. What does turnkey mean here?
Turnkey means it's ready to go. Someone else could step in, turn the key, and the system would run. The source asks, how do businesses like McDonald's achieve that kind of consistency in scale?
The system.
Exactly. By designing the business from the very beginning as if it were going to be franchised. The secret weapon of successful business format franchises isn't just the brand recognition, it's the underlying franchise prototype.
So the prototype is the business itself, but designed like
Yeah.
like a product.
Precisely. The source says you build the business like a product that would only sell if it worked. And to make sure it works predictably, consistently, every single time, everywhere, even if someone completely new is running it, like a franchisee.
It has to be built from predictable parts.
Perfectly predictable components that could be tested in a prototype before you even think about scaling or duplicating it.
Okay, the McDonald's example clicks now. Ray Kroc wasn't really selling hamburgers, was he? He was selling the system for delivering hamburgers consistently.
That's it, exactly. The McDonald's restaurant itself was the product he was perfecting and selling. It had to run the same way, taste the same, feel the same, whether it was in Des Plaines, Illinois, or San Bernardino, California. Run by him or by a franchisee. The system guaranteed the experience.
So the prototype is like the test kitchen, the lab.
The source calls it the incubator and the nursery for all creative thought. It's where you test every assumption with one main question. Does it work? It acts as a buffer between hypothesis and action. You figure things out there on a small scale before you rolls out.
And this leads to that huge mindset shift. The system runs the business. The people run the system.
That's the core principle, not the other way around, which is how most small businesses operate in infancy and adolescence.
And this systematic franchise prototype, it's the answer to that constant struggle. How do I give the customer what they want, but keep control?
That's what the source proposes. It's the structure that allows the entrepreneur's vision to take shape, provides the order the manager craves, and gives the technician the clear methods they need. All three internal personalities finally have a framework to work together productively.
And the book makes this really broad claim. Every great business in the world is a franchise. What does that mean if they don't actually sell franchises?
It means they have a unique proprietary way of doing business that successfully and preferentially differentiates them. Their system, their unique way of operating, is their franchise, their core repeatable product, whether they duplicate it through company-owned stores or actual franchisees.
Okay, so the million-dollar question then is, how do you, the listener, stop just doing the work and start building your own franchise prototype? How does this apply to, say, Sarah's Pie Shop or any small business?
The first step, according to the source, is defining your strategic objective. This is absolutely foundational.
Strategic objective.
Yeah,
Sounds strategic. What is it?
It's a very clear statement of what your business has to ultimately do for you to achieve your primary aim.
Primary aim.
Yeah.
It's like your life goal, what you want out of life.
Exactly, your life plan. So the strategic objective connects the business directly to your personal life goals. It's the vision of the finished product that is and will be your business. You design the business from the start as a tool, a vehicle to enrich your life rather than one that drains the life you have.
So it's like a blueprint for the business, ensuring it actually serves you.
Precisely. A template for your business so the time and energy you pour in actually generates the life results you want. It flows from your life plan, your primary aim, and connects to your business strategy and plan, the structure to make it happen.
What needs to go in this strategic objective?
The source highlights two absolutely critical standards. Standard number one, money.
Okay, the bottom line.
Yep. You need to define the gross revenues, the size the business needs to reach, to meet the financial goals you set out in your primary aim. How big does it need to be? $300,000 a year, $1 million, $500 million. Be specific. The source asks, if you don't have that target, how can you even know if the whole thing is an opportunity worth pursuing?
Makes sense. You need a target to aim for. What's the second standard?
This one's fascinating, an opportunity worth pursuing. It's not enough to just set a money goal. The business must have a realistic shot at hitting that goal by being seen by the customer as distinctly different.
Different? How?
This is key. The source states, pretty boldly, nobody's interested in the commodity. People buy feeling.
Whoa. People buy feelings, not the pie itself, but how buying the pie makes them feel.
That's the argument.
Hmm.
And in today's complex world, the source says the feelings driving our buying decisions are often more urgent, less rational, more unconscious.
Wow. Okay. So the real product isn't just the physical thing or service.
Yeah.
It's how your business taps into and satisfies those, like, hidden feelings.
Precisely. It's how your business anticipates and delivers on those often unspoken emotional needs.
How do you figure that out? That sounds hard.
It requires digging deeper than just basic customer data. The source talks about two models. First, the central demographic model. This is the science part. Who is your most likely customer? Age, sex, income, location, education. Objective facts. You need this.
Oh, the who?
But then, crucially, there's the central psychographic model. This explores the why. Why does this specific demographic group buy from you? Or maybe more importantly, why don't they? What are their motivations, their values, their perceptions, their unconscious desires? The source says their reasons are often none of which are rational or even explicable.
So irrational reasons drive buying.
Often, yes. Think about the example in the source of the woman in the apparel shop. Tries on blue, looks good. Tries red, likes it. Tries yellow, it's trendy. What does she buy? Gray. And then she hates it later. Her choice wasn't purely logical. It was driven by some complex mix of feelings, maybe fleeting fashion ideas, self-image. Who knows?
Or that Cheskin study example. Just changing the shape of a logo on a package triangle versus circle versus crest dramatically changed sales. The product inside was identical.
Exactly. It was the feeling evoked by the packaging, which leads to the source's point. Your business, your franchise prototype, must be packaged as carefully as any box of cereal. Because in the customer's mind, their perception, built on these feelings, is your product.
Okay, this changes how you think about marketing entirely. It's not just ads and promotions.
Not at all. Marketing starts way earlier with this deep understanding of perception and feeling. The source warns that if you don't take the psychographic stuff seriously, building your prototype is just a crapshoot, pure luck.
And the source even redefines what marketing is, right?
Yeah, it's not just a department you tack on, it's the entire business process. Marketing asks the fundamental question: what must our business be in the mind of our customers? And the answer to that question should shape literally everything you do, every function, every role, every decision.
So it starts with the promise you make to get their attention.
Right, what the source might call lead generation.
Continues with the actual sale interaction.
Lead conversion.
And finishes with delivering on that promise, making sure they leave feeling good.
Client fulfillment or operations. And the ultimate aim of all this marketing, the book stresses, is getting customers to come back again and again.
Because it's cheaper.
Way cheaper. The source puts it bluntly. The customer you've got is one hell of a lot less expensive to keep than constantly chasing new ones. Repeat business isn't just nice, it's the most efficient path to sustainable growth. That should be the primary aim of your marketing system.
Does the source give examples of how to systematize this, like feeling-based selling?
It mentions the PowerPoint selling system. It has two parts. Structure the predetermined steps you follow, what you do, and substance how you do it, the scripts, the actual process of interaction.
Scripts, like word for word.
Not necessarily robotic, but a structured process. The substance is described as a series of scripts or benchmarks guiding key interactions. Examples given are an appointment presentation, a needs analysis presentation, a solutions presentation.
Okay.
The Walter Mitty Company example illustrates it well. Their sales presentation isn't about listing all the features of their financial control system. It's a carefully designed process.
A process to do what?
To first understand the prospect's real, maybe even unstated financial worries and goals. Then to analyze their situation. Then create personally tailored solutions based on that analysis. Then deliver a clear report explaining the solutions. And only then outline next steps if and only if the solutions genuinely make sense for that specific customer.
So the system guides the conversation toward understanding and solving the customer's problem, not just pushing a product.
Exactly. That structured yet personalized interaction is the substance. It builds trust and delivers value by focusing on the customer's underlying needs and feelings, not just selling a generic commodity.
Okay, wow. So we need the strategic objective, deep customer understanding, and a marketing sales system built around that. What's next in building this prototype?
Next comes the organizational strategy. And the key here is structure first.
Structure first, before people.
Absolutely. This is another huge flip from the typical technician approach. The source argues strongly. The system, the structure, is the solution. not just hoping you hire good people and throwing them at the chaos.
So what does structure first look like practically?
It means you sit down and design the complete organization chart for your business as it will need to look when it's fully mature, running smoothly, hitting your strategic objective. You define all the positions required before you hire anyone.
Even if I'm the only one working there right now, I draw a chart with, like, president, VP of marketing, etc.
Yes, and then you figure out which roles you currently fill. But the critical part is defining the roles and their responsibilities first. This leads to creating a position contract for every single box on that chart.
A position contract, like an employment contract.
Yeah, sort of, but it's more about defining the role itself. The source describes it as an agreement between the company and whoever fills that role, even if it's you wearing multiple hats. It summarizes the rules of the company's game for that specific position.
What does it do?
It provides clarity, commitment, and accountability. It specifies who's to stand up and what they're being counted on to produce in that role. Results, not just activities.
The Widget Makers, Inc. example sounds like it illustrates this.
Perfectly. Jack and Murray are starting this company. Before they make a single widget, they sit down and draw their future organization chart. President, VP Ops, VP Finance, Sales Manager, Production Manager, and so on.
And then they put themselves in the boxes.
They assign themselves multiple roles initially. Jack might be President and Sales Manager. Murray is VP Ops and Production Manager. The source says they each took on 6 jobs each at the start.
Wow. But the key is?
The key is they then sign the position contracts for each of those 6 roles as though I were an employee filling that specific job.
Ah, that's brilliant. It forces you to think about the specific results and responsibilities for each function, separate from the person doing it.
Exactly. It creates order and defines accountability before the chaos hits. You're thinking top-down like an entrepreneur manager designing the structure, but you're preparing to build bottom-up by having the technician, you initially, step into these clearly defined roles and deliver the specified results.
Okay, that structure makes sense. How does it connect to managing the business day-to-day?
Leads right into the management strategy. And the core idea here echoes that famous AT&T slogan. The system is the solution.
Meaning good management isn't just about finding good managers.
It's primarily about having a good management system. Relying solely on finding brilliant, intuitive managers is risky and hard to scale. A great system allows good people to produce consistently great results.
The Venetia Hotel example in the source seemed to capture this perfectly.
It's a fantastic illustration. The guest arrives, tired, maybe stressed. They don't say anything specific, but the hotel anticipates their needs. Redwood Grove view, warm lobby, fire already lit in the room, mints on the pillow, the quilt turned down just so. Brandy waiting, coffee timer set for morning, newspaper outside the door.
It sounds magical, like someone read their mind.
Exactly. But the point is, it wasn't magic or mind reading by an exceptionally empathetic staff member. The source calls it an orchestrated solution designed to produce a marketing result. The system made the guests feel deeply heard and cared for automatically. Totally automatic.
And the mechanics behind it were just checklists.
Simple, documented checklist for the room support persons, detailing the specific steps for every single task, lighting the fire, placing the mints, setting the timer. Those checklists were just one part of a comprehensive management system designed to deliver that specific feeling, that specific result every single time.
That connects to another story in the source about the manager remembering their first boss.
Yes, the boss who was most businesslike. Why? Because before the new employee started any work, the boss sat down and discussed the job itself with them. He wasn't just hiring a body, he was hiring someone to do something inside themselves.
What does that mean, do something inside themselves?
The source explains it like this. The work itself, the task, is just an idea. It's passive. It's the person doing the work who breathes life into that idea, who gives it meaning and impact. The work becomes you. So the boss was looking for someone who could truly inhabit the role, embody the idea behind the work, and bring the system to life.
It's a much deeper view of work, isn't it?
It really is. And it leads to this powerful metaphor the source introduces, the business as a martial arts practice hall, a dojo.
A dojo. Like for fighting?
Not fighting competitors. It's a place you go not just to earn a living, but to practice being the best you can possibly be. The true combat in this business dojo, the source says, is internal. It's with ourselves.
So building the business becomes a form of self-improvement.
That's the idea. When designed this way, the business becomes a game worth playing. It can potentially fill that something missing. Many people feel a lack of clear purpose, shared values, high standards, meaningful connection. It can become a real community with integrity, intention, accountability.
But games need rules.
Right. Absolutely. The source says the game needs rules. Those are your systems, your standards. It needs occasional victories now and then to keep morale up. You might need to change tactics sometimes, but the core strategy, the ethic, the values, the purpose, that has to be sacrosanct,
Calm.
untouchable.
It should be fun.
From time to time, the source adds, realistically. And fun as defined by the people playing, not just the owner. But crucially, learning to deal with the parts that are not fun, the hard parts, that's also part of playing the game well. Resilience matters.
How does this connect back to Sarah, the baker?
The source draws a beautiful parallel. The hotel owner's game was orchestrating that perfect guest experience through meticulous systems. Sarah's aunt, who taught her to bake, had her own game in the kitchen, a profound dedication to cleanliness, beauty, order, perfection in the craft. It's the same underlying commitment to standards and excellence, just applied differently. Sarah needed to translate her aunt's game into business systems.
So the owner's real job in this mature phase is to lead this game, set the standards.
Exactly. To lead and define the standards for the management system. And those standards aren't arbitrary. They're tied directly back to the primary aim, the strategic objective, the rules of the game, the core story or philosophy of the business, like Sarah's aunt's dedication, and the overall vision.
Do you need, professional managers with MBAs to run this?
Not necessarily. The source says you don't need professional managers in the traditional sense. You need people who wish to learn how to manage to those standards you've set, people who are personally committed to the vision and the game, people who actually want to play your game.
And the rules of the game become the actual systems.
Literally. You define how we do it here for every single process, every task. The source lists examples, how we answer the phone here, how we recruit, hire, and train people here, how we manage performance here, how we improve things here.
Here, meaning within your specific business's way.
Defined by your business's core identity, its purpose, its it. For FedEx, the source suggests the it is when you absolutely, positively have to get it there overnight. That promise defines everything they do.
So what was Sarah's it?
The source identifies her it as caring.
Okay, so the question for her becomes,
how do you express caring when you answer the phone? How do you express caring when you take a pie out of the oven, when you package it, when you take the customer's money?
and the answer to all those questions is,
How you do it here. It's the sum total of all your documented processes for every single touch point. It's not left to chance or mood. It's documented in your operations manuals. It's taught consistently in your training, your company school. It's managed to ensure consistency, and it's constantly refined.
so how you do it here becomes your unique signature, your best way.
It's what you believe in, it's why people trust you, and crucially, it's this system, not just relying on finding heroic individuals, that differentiates your business and allows you to deliver quality consistently as you grow. Imagine the chaos without it. Impossible to scale.
Right. Okay, so building this prototype, these systems, it sounds like a massive project. Is this something you do once and then you're done?
No, definitely not. The source emphasizes it's a continuous, dynamic process. It's driven by 3 core activities that are the natural evolution of this business development approach: innovation, quantification, and orchestration. It's something you do all the time.
Okay, break those down. Innovation first.
Innovation isn't just having ideas, it's doing new things. The source quotes Theodore Levitt. Creativity thinks up new things. Innovation does new things. It's applying creativity in a practical way to actually improve something, to get a result.
Like the example of the men's clothing store owner.
Right. He had an idea. Creativity. Maybe grouping suits by color would work better. He actually changed the display. Innovation. Put all the blue suits together, all the brown suits together. That practical change is the innovation. The source calls it the signature of a bold, imaginative hand.
Okay, you innovate, try something new, then comes quantification.
Yes. Every innovation needs to be quantified. You have to measure.
Yeah.
How do you know if grouping the suits by color actually worked? Did sales of blue suits go up? Did overall suit sales increase? You track the numbers.
So gut feeling isn't enough.
Absolutely not. You need data. Knowing your key numbers, conversion rates, sales per product line, customer acquisition costs, whatever is relevant is essential. The source says without the numbers, you can't possibly know where you are, let alone where you're going. Numbers give the business a totally new meaning. They make it real, objective.
Okay, so you innovate, Try grouping suits.
Yeah.
You quantify, measure sales, see it works better. What's orchestration?
Orchestration is systematizing what works. Since grouping suits by color led to better sales, you make that the new standard operating procedure. It goes into the operations manual. That's how we do it here for displaying suits now.
You lock in the improvement.
You lock it in. You do it that way, say it that way, look that way. You operate according to the proven best practice, the prototype, for as long as it keeps producing the best results, quantification. When the numbers dip or you have a new better idea, innovation, you test it, quantification. And if it proves superior, you orchestrate the new best way.
So it's continuous loop. Provides certainty and order, but it's not static.
Exactly. Continuous improvement driven by data embedded in the system.
And these systems you're building through this process, they fall into different types.
The source identifies 3 main categories of systems needed for your franchise prototype.
Okay.
First, hard systems. These are the tangible things, the physical environment. Your sign, the store layout, the color of the walls, the display cases, the equipment, the uniforms your staff wears, everything the customer sees and touches. The source tells Sarah that when it's right, the entire business should look like one fully integrated, beautifully designed system. Aesthetics and function working together. Sarah, being a craftsperson, probably had a good feel for this.
Makes sense. The physical stuff. What's second?
Information systems. This is all about data management, how you track sales, inventory levels, customer information, marketing results, financials, how you analyze that data to get insights, your point of sale system, your accounting software, your CRM. Sarah seemed to get the need for this too.
Okay, hard systems, information systems. What's the third?
Third, and the source suggests this is often the trickiest one for technician owners, are soft systems.
Soft, meaning intangible.
Exactly. These are all about communication, human interaction. It's the scripts for answering the phone, the specific language used during employee training, the step-by-step process for handling a sales conversation or a customer complaint, how people are expected to talk to each other. It's the words, the tone, the process of interaction.
This is where Sarah struggled initially, right? When she couldn't articulate her version of the boss's game.
Precisely. She needed help defining the soft systems that would consistently express her value of caring in every single interaction, verbal or written.
And the real power comes when these soft systems are fully integrated.
Totally integrated, so that how you do it here, standard is reflected consistently in every email, every phone call, every conversation with customers and staff. It's how you operationalize your culture and values through language and process.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from the core problem, the E-myth, the technician trap, the chaos, through the proposed solution, building this system-driven franchise prototype using strategic objectives, marketing, org structure, management systems, constantly improved through innovation, quantification, orchestration across hard, information, and soft systems. That's a huge framework.
It is, but the book takes it even one step further. It connects this whole intense business development process to something much deeper. Business as a path to self-discovery.
Meaning the work you do on the business also changes you.
That's the profound idea. The author suggests that the very act of stepping back, analyzing, systematizing, leading, going to work on the business becomes a powerful metaphor for going to work on their lives.
So it's not just about efficiency or making more money.
Those are outcomes. But the deeper purpose, the source argues, is to simply and finally create more life for everyone. But most of all, for you, the person who owns it. It's about liberation.
Quality, in this view, is more than just technical skill.
Much more. It includes harmony, balance, passion, intention, attention. Just making things more efficient for efficiency's sake is empty. The improvement has to serve a higher purpose, something that touches the hearts and minds and souls of people.
The business becomes like a school for life.
In a way, yes. A place for coming to grips with oneself in the face of an incredibly complex world that can teach us if we're open to learn.
This connects back to Sarah's story about her spirit being nurtured by her aunt, but maybe stifled elsewhere.
Exactly. Her whole business philosophy, born out of this E-myth struggle, becomes there will be no stuffing of the spirit here. The business itself has to embody that dedication to something more than just transactions if it's going to offer true value to everyone involved.
And the business acts like that mirror we talked about earlier.
A very responsive mirror. It responds instantly to any action we take, reflecting our own thinking, our own discipline, or lack thereof. It becomes a place where disorganized thoughts must become focused, where discipline and willpower are essential, not just nice-to-haves.
The source even suggests it can become a kind of home, a place of community.
Yeah, potentially replacing the home most of us have lost. A place with shared purpose and values.
And bringing back the dojo idea, the real fight is internal.
The true combat is with ourselves. The business, structured this way, becomes a place to practice being the best you can be, a path towards self-awareness, self-improvement, constantly trying new things within that defined structure.
The excerpts even bring in psychology, mentioning Rolla May's book, Man's Search for Himself, from way back in 1953.
Right, talking about core values, meaning purpose, anxiety issues May identified decades ago. The source reflects that even after all the social and psychological shifts since then, we're still searching for meaning, feeling disconnected from caring sufficiently.
We care about money, safety, entertainment, but maybe not the deeper stuff.
That's the challenging question posed. Are we focused on things that are ultimately insignificant?
And true freedom, the source quotes Nietzsche via May, is the ability to become what we truly are.
And the work of building this kind of conscious business is presented as a way to do that, a way to become not only aware of, but attentive to all the parts of your business and all the parts of yourself, the entrepreneur, manager, technician working together for a purpose.
But it takes courage, right? A leap of faith.
The huge leap, a willingness to be open, to be awake, to be available, to give up false beliefs about business and yourself. Why bother with something so hard? The source puts it starkly, because his life was at stake. Staying stuck in the technician trap means sacrificing your life, your potential, your spirit to the business that owns you.
So for Hera, her spirit wasn't in the past she needed to replicate. It was waiting for her in the future.
On the path you have now chosen, the path of consciously building a business that reflects her values and allows her spirit to thrive.
But there's a warning attached to this too, isn't there?
Yeah.
About getting comfortable.
A very strong warning about your comfort zone, that old familiar territory of being the technician, doing everything, feeling in control. It's seductive. It knows you want comfort, predictability, and it can seize you again.
And the price of retreating back into that comfort zone.
The ultimate price, your life, the source warns. You have to actively, consciously guard your spirit, your vision with your life against the pull of just going back to doing what feels easy and familiar.
Wow. So the ultimate potential here, the dream of American small business, isn't just about profit.
It's about creating a world of our own, a business built consciously, systematically, with purpose. The franchise prototype, the game worth playing, the dojo, can become that unique world, a world that reflects your best self, where your spirit flourishes, not gets stuffed away.
Okay, that is
What?
a lot to take in, incredibly deep. So let's try to boil this down. What are the absolute key takeaways for you listening right now from these powerful ideas?
First, gotta recognize that E-myth. Most businesses start from a technician's flawed assumption. Knowing the work equals knowing how to run the business. It doesn't.
Second, look inside. You've got an entrepreneur, a manager, and a technician in there. Success means acknowledging all three and actively working towards balance, not letting the technician run the whole show.
Third, understand the phases of growth. Infancy, you do it all. Adolescence, hire help, chaos ensues. Maturity, system works independently. Getting stuck in adolescent chaos or shrinking back to infancy due to hitting your personal comfort zone is the major failure point.
Fourth, the core solution proposed is to design and build your business like a franchise prototype, a complete system designed to work predictably and consistently, even without you.
Fifth, this demands a massive shift. Stop working in the business day to day and start working on the business building that system. Big difference.
Sixth, start with a clear strategic objective. Know what the business must do for your life. Primary aim. Set financial goals. And crucially, understand your customer deeply. Not just demographics, but their psychographics, the feelings they're buying.
Seventh, structure first. Design your mature organization chart and define every role with position contracts before you start plugging people in, even if it's just you wearing all the hats initially.
Eighth, remember, the system is the solution, especially for management and operations. Document how you do it here for everything in operations manuals. Make sure your core value, your it, shines through consistently via hard, information, and soft systems.
Ninth, embrace continuous improvement. Innovation, try new things. Quantification, measure the results. Orchestration, systematize what works. It's an ongoing cycle.
And finally, 10th, see this whole process not just as business building, but as a powerful path for personal growth. A game worth playing. A dojo for becoming your best self. A chance to create a world of our own if you can resist the lure of the comfort zone.
That sums it up pretty well.
Okay, that's the theory, the framework. But it can feel overwhelming. For you listening, sitting with all this, What are some actual practical first steps someone could take inspired by this material?
Good question. Start by just asking yourself those really fundamental questions the source poses. How can I get my business to work, but without me? How can I get my people to work, but without my constant interference? How can I systematize my business? So the 5,000th unit would run as smoothly as the first. Just pondering those is a start.
Okay. Then maybe try shifting how you even see your business. Not just the work you do, but as a product itself, that franchise prototype you're consciously building.
Exactly. And start sketching out your strategic objective, even roughly. What does this business need to do for you financially? And who is that ideal customer? What feeling are you actually selling them underneath the product or service?
What about the structure?
Try mapping out the key positions your business would need if it were, say, 5 times bigger, even if it's just you now. Then write a simple position contract for your main roles right now. President, technician, salesperson. What results are you accountable for in each role? Treat yourself like an employee in that role.
Documentation feels key, too.
Pick one small, simple, repeatable task you do every day, just one. And document step by step how you do it here. Write it down. That's the seed of your operations manual.
And pay attention to those soft systems.
Yes. Listen to how you answer the phone. How do you greet customers? How do you explain your service? Does it consistently reflect your core value, your it? Maybe write down a preferred way.
Measurement, too. Quantification.
Start tracking one key number consistently, just one that matters. Maybe it's the number of leads per week or the average sale amount or how many customers came back this month. Get comfortable with a number. Use it to see if changes you make, innovations, actually move the needle.
And maybe the biggest practical step is mindset.
Absolutely. Try to consciously view the daily frustrations and challenges not just as problems, but as practice. Opportunities to learn, adapt, improve yourself and the system, like being in that dojo.
Okay, practical steps. That helps ground it. The source material leaves us with one final thought that really seems to tie it all together. It says, but not until you do something will you understand it.
Yeah, that quote lands powerfully after everything we've discussed, doesn't it? It feels like the ultimate point.
How so?
It suggests that all this knowledge, all these concepts, the E-myth, the personalities, the systems, the prototype, you can read about them, you can hear us talk about them, you can grasp them intellectually.
But the real understanding doesn't click until you actually try to implement it.
Exactly. The deep understanding, that gut-level shift from technician to entrepreneur, the real mastery of balancing those internal roles, feeling the power of a working system, it doesn't come from theory alone.
It comes from the messy reality of doing it.
From the struggle, the trial and error, the real-world application. Building the systems piece by piece, facing those internal resistances, pushing yourself past that comfortable but limiting technician role. That's where the transformation happens.
So maybe that's the final thought for you listening right now as we wrap up this deep dive.
Consider this. What is just one small doing step you can take this week, maybe even today, based on everything we've unpacked here? Just one tangible action.
To start moving, even slightly.
Yeah.
From only working in your business to consciously working on your business. One step towards building that system, taking that path towards becoming what you truly are.
What's your one step? Think about it.